Well, hey there. And welcome to Surprise Me Joel with your host, Joel Zaslofsky. Have you noticed how I say that last sentence changes from episode to episode? Guess it's just one more small surprise for you. I'm in the thick of what I call neighboring season. Something that lasts from approximately late March through early November in Minnesota between people mostly hibernating during the colder months. I have just co created the Lake Edina Neighborhood Association with two friends and neighbors. I'm exploring co running a cross neighborhood kickball tournament and just generally loving seeing people strolling down the streets near me. My conversation partner for this episode, the glorious and delightfully unpredictable Becca Campbell, knows a thing or two about local relationships too. Her words to insight ratio is among the absolute highest of anyone I've ever met. I was a bit surprised by the conversation. We actually zoomed out the lens and discussed a huge part of why we bags of goo, also known as humans, even bother with relationships of any kind in the first place. It's this little thing called belonging. That one word does a lot of work, and we'll get into how and why. Becca's microphone, it's not the best. I mean, heck, mine's not exactly pro podcasting level either, but any lack of audio quality will be more than made up for in vibrant stories, unique perspectives, and darn it, gosh darn tootin', some good old fashioned fun. I mean, can you honestly turn down an episode where we cover a fresh way to think about goals you secretly hate? Yeah, I didn't think so. What about when we riff on the surprising power of asking loved ones, is this what you need? Or what seeking the most efficient expression of self actually looks like? Or the art of amplifying others and how to know when you're doing it well? Yeah, this episode is all kinds of groovy. So let's get into it. Here we go. Welcome, Becca. Are you ready to get funky with me?
I'm ready to get funky.
Ooh, I knew you were going to say yes. That was a leading question over
The
there.
softball. Okay, good. Warm me up. Warm me up.
Knocked it out of the park. 1 for 1, batting 1,000. Hopefully, I'm batting, around 500. Okay, but before we started recording, we did talk about, well, where do we begin? Multi-potentialites like us who are interested and are fascinated by a bazillion things, where do we begin? And I suggested something and your eyes got big, like, ooh, yeah, ooh, I like that. So we're
Mm.
going to start here. What does it mean to build a life around how your brain actually works rather than forcing your brain to fit the life you want?
So, first, the whole concept of it is like you have to know your brain to do this, right? Like, you really have to know not all the mechanisms, but you just have to see the patterns. And I think for so long when you're little, you're not even conscious of the patterns. You're just like, I'm living the life that I'm seeing everybody else live, right? It's like early developmental stages of belonging. And once you start to get that consciousness around who you are and like what you're doing with your life, the actual way that your brain is doing it starts to become clear. But then I should use my statements. But then I noticed, oh, that life that I was seeing everybody do seems harder or not aligned or just clunkier than the way that my brain is organizing data, reflection, experience. And that switch is a developmental thing as well. I don't see a lot of 9-year-olds being like, yeah, this doesn't work for me. I'm going to do it my own way. So it literally happens like over time. At least for me, that was happening. And it has slow down periods and accelerated periods. But being in relationship with myself in that way, to stop looking at someone else's methods and then to start looking at the way that my brain is more efficiently designed to do a certain thing, it's eye-opening because you start to slough off the drag, right? And that's the only thing I can think of is like you're
Slough
swimming with
off the drag?
yeah, like you're swimming with a backpack and you're like, everyone seems to be swimming with a backpack. So like I'm gonna also swim with a backpack. That's just the way your brain's organizing it. You're not they aren't really swimming with a backpack, but that's the perception of how hard it feels, right? You're just like, I guess we're all gonna like climb up this hill this way, or we're gonna like do these movements. The second you realize that actually you're far more efficient if you just let go of the backpack and swim the maybe wild and chaotic way that you swim, you're actually much faster in that chaos or wildness, I should say. It's not really chaos for me. And then you have this whole other world open up. And there's a very common, it's like having a Pinto engine and a Porsche body or driving with the brakes on, like lots of car analogies about speed and efficiency of use of fuel and, torque and all that stuff. Yes, that too. I just was kind of using a different thing, but like, yeah, once I really looked into like, how does my brain do this? How do I do relationships? Let's be specific. Oh, I do this. I have a pattern of the way that I interact with people. And I don't know if I could always put it into words, but I do the exact same thing every time. And I know I do because I see the same moments, right? I'm like, oh, this is that moment between friends. Like we're at next level, right? Have you done
Mm.
the intimacy gathering or whatever? Anyways, yeah, it has been and continues to be a very fascinating process to really make my life follow my own efficiency rather than just look at a goal and be like, that's what I want. And I don't know how to ask me more questions about that because I don't necessarily know how to describe that to people. But it's one of the reasons I hate goals. I mean, it, a goal has this end point and has like there's like a prescribed structure usually, like how to do a thing. And I was just like, sure, when I get there, it's going to change again. So we just stop calling it a goal. We just like, I'm seeking the most efficient expression of self,
Mhm.
you know?
How many categories are there for the way a brain could work? You've thought about this more than I have.
Mm,
Like, are there in all the humans that you've interacted with, and tell me if this is just somewhere you don't wanna go. Like, are there 5 core ways that a brain can work and, like, how you verbally process and think and engage in relationships? Are there 1,000 different ways? Give me a sense of what you've encountered because you and I see the world a bit differently, and that's one of the things that I love about us is that you
mm,
constantly educate me and inform me of, like, "Joel, guess what? Most people don't experience the world that the way that you do, and, like, here are some ways that I do and some other people." I'm like, "Oh, oh, that is super useful to know because I'm often in a bubble." So, am I in a yeah, tell me about different ways that you've experienced other people's brains.
So this is bizarrely revealing, and you'll have to ask me questions if I kind of start to float off into uh, metacognition around it. But I think of everything as a context. So when somebody comes to me, let's say I'm meeting somebody for the first time, I quickly need context, right? How do I know you? What are you about? How do you want to know me? What do you want to know about me? It's more first them. I usually am not trying to 50-50 it. I just am like, I'm almost doing an assessment. Like, does this make sense for for both of our leveling up? Sounds weird to think of it like that, and it's 100% unconscious. If somebody is, I don't like to say boring, but this is the term most people use. If somebody is like not interesting to me, or I can notice that I'm not interesting to them, it's almost like there's this moment where I was like, let's not waste time. You carry on to find your people, and I'll carry
Mm,
on to find mine. It's so neutral. It's not even like, "I don't like you, you're bored." It's just more like, "Yeah, man, I wanna be the next iteration for you. I wanna be a part of that, and if I'm not, if you can't find yourself iterating around me for yourself, you know, let's shake hands and go to the bathroom." We're obviously at a party when I say that. So that's kinda like my first layer, and then once we find out that, like, this seems like a generative and iterative like, moment. Maybe we're at a conference, we've already kind of sloughed off the "what are you here for?" Then I move into my first it's kind of like, can you hear what I'm saying so that it's not confusing and annoying for you to use this interaction for yourself? So I'll seek to be that sounds backward, but I'll seek to be understood so that people will feel like I could understand them. I do that instead of understanding them first and being like, now I understand you. That's not hard for me. I really feel like I can grok a lot very quickly. I don't know how this happens. I don't know if it has to do with like some trauma based skills I learned or just the way that my autistic brain works. But like, I'm like card cataloging every single thing that's happening, like more than I wish I was sometimes.
Hmm.
And so then encountering different brains, I'm definitely not being like, you process audibly, you process visually. Those are helpful if you're in a psych program and you need to write a paper or you
Yeah.
have a thesis. I don't find that very helpful. I find that everybody is so complex that actually labeling it without a context doesn't make any sense because most people will say, oh, this doesn't all apply to me. So then it kind of gets thrown out. And it really doesn't even matter. You can come up to me and say, I am Myers Briggs, INFJ, I am a Virgo, I like to eat orange food. And like you can tell me all these things. But until we start getting into like a synthesizing mode, that's literally a social tool to like box ourselves into places where we can agree to agree. I don't actually need to agree to agree. I'm totally fine disagreeing. And again, if the disagreement is antagonistic, that's not helpful for me, right? If you're just trying to persuade me because you think you're right, fine. If you're giving me information as an argument, right? Like, hey, think about this. Have you thought about this? That is beneficial to me, even if we don't agree,
Yeah.
right? Like, then I'm just like, great, context. So I don't know if that answers your question. It's probably not very simply, but just in terms of like the way our brain works, it has to be so many other like, what are the experiences you've had and how they affected you? Context. What first language did you have? Are your parents, in your life? Like, there's so many other things other than just the way that your brain works that I can't give it too much credence, which then makes the way that I see the world look like it's my brain, but it is a full experience. It's very complex. Because my face is talking and my face and my brain are very close to each other. Most people are like, "Hey, you're very cerebral." And I was like, "Well, that's because if I didn't talk, you wouldn't be able to intuit my body sensations that are happening simultaneously."
Mm, my
So,
face and my brain are close to each other. That might be one of my favorite things that you've ever said. That's just delightful. I mean, yeah, if that wasn't the case, you'd probably be dead. What about the ways that we humans, at least the way that you experience us, are the same? We process the same or we come to
mhm,
similar worldviews. Is that an easier thing to talk about?
sure. I mean, I have thoughts about it and I have experiences of it, which are going to be two different things. I
Give
believe
me
we
give me what you
all,
got.
yeah, I believe we all have a sense of desiring belonging. The levels on which we desire that and seek that and achieve that, wildly different,
Is that
right?
desire and belonging or the desire for belonging?
Desire for belonging.
Okay.
Yeah, desire a separate thing. But the social thing, which allows us to, I don't want to say be in groups because again, like we're not talking introverts and extroverts. We're talking the feeling that you are to be here, right? Like not that you have a purpose, but that you are in a group of something, right? Humans, bioregion, whatever. That sense of belonging is something I think we all share in varying degrees. So similar. And people who are even sociopathic, like clinically sociopathic, this is my armchair psychology version of this, but they had that and it just got stamped down. So just this idea that we have a way that we'd like to be in in a collection, right? Even hermits are in a collection that's just not our collection, right? You know what I'm saying? Like not everybody wants to be with all of the other people. But that similarity drives a lot of behavior. And if we could pay attention to what, so, let's say there's like a miss thingy, like a mismatch or like energy not aligned or whatever, I would identify that usually as like, oh, how you want to belong and how I want to belong are probably just not the same. We both want something of belonging. We just don't see the same way to get it or the same receiving of it, right? I almost don't I know that love is like a very popular romantic way to phrase that very same thing, just using a different word. I don't necessarily think love needs to be a part of it. I really do think that inside of belonging is love, but I think belonging is top level. Like
Mm.
I think that goes above like feeling love. A sense of belonging has some of that inherently there. We just don't name it the same thing. I think. Other similarities.
Well, before we get to that, how do you know that you are loved or that you belong when you're in community?
That kind of back to the like I'm somebody who is adding to another person's experience. And you don't need to love me. Like you don't need to say I love you. That to me is just a bunch of words that again we've socialized ourselves to use that direct communication. But if somebody says to me, even if it's a negative thing, if they're like, I really don't like what you said about this, job done. You have
So,
you have
being in a
clarified
place, okay.
you have clarified to yourself what your convictions are by using the pushback against me. I don't need you to hug me about that. You feel stronger in yourself because of something that I showed you about yourself.
Hmm.
Right. Right. So my sense of belonging, so feeling loved probably has a little more mutuality around it, meaning I help you, you help me. I don't necessarily need that on top of the belonging thing. I just need a little smaller group of people that have that, reciprocal communication.
Okay. So, love is reciprocity, but you can find belonging somewhere that no one else is finding belonging. You can feel like I belong here, even if everybody else says you don't belong here, or if nobody
Yeah.
else, because dissent is allowed. You're able to say
Yep.
no because you're able to be generous in the ways that you like to be generous or can
Mhm.
contribute in the way that you want to contribute.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, I said this actually one of the first before I knew you very well, but I said this at one of the first times that we were interacting to that big group of people. But I had to realize that the belonging starts with me. I bring it.
Hmm.
If I belong to the space, I belong to it already. You don't need to deem me belonging.
Totally.
And if I have to wait for you to validate my belonging, then that is I mean, my head has to be on a swivel every 5 seconds. Do I belong? Do I belong? Do I belong? I'm kind of making it a little bit more psychological rather than spiritual, but like that is the feeling I think people have when they think that they have a purpose from a higher something or they're here for a reason. I don't even need the on high part about that. I can just be like, yeah, I made you upset. Great, you have feelings. I can move on. Right. And I'm not happy. I'm not trying to be like, "Ha, I'm happy I made you upset. I'm not glorifying antagonizing people or feeling antagonized against. I don't love when people reject me. I'm a normal person. But at the same time, it, every time I test this theory of like, where do I belong? What do I do? How do I fit? When I externalize it, I'm always coming up short. But when I have it inside, when I can find it inside myself, I'm just like, oh, cool. It doesn't mean I'm not insecure, but I also feel like that's a different part of me that's insecure or that's like getting rejected. That's a little kid part of me that's old. But for the most part, like I'm just like, I am trying to reflect the highest version of myself on a regular basis. And I can only do that by constantly seeking the highest version of myself and then sharing it and seeing if that is the highest, right? Like I have a feeling about that.
Do you use that word reflect on purpose? You're trying to reflect yourself because normally you have to look in someone else's eyes to see how you're reflected back. What do you mean when you said reflect the highest version of yourself?
So it's a little bit how like namaste works. I see my God, how do you
The light in me honors
sees
the
the light
light
in
in
you?
you,
Yeah.
or is the light in you something like that? Uh huh.
There's versions that are like the highest blank of this and reflects the highest blank of that, same type of thing. It is in that I am not namaste is not my ethnic background, so I'm
Me
not that's
neither.
not what
I
I
might
use
have
it.
just totally butchered it.
Yeah, but but I have a version of that that is like, if I think the best of humanity is present in this moment, am I acting as the best of humanity? You can People can call that a godlike figure, a something bigger than myself, whatever you want. I really don't even care how people reflect, how people think about that. But I it's a sense I have in my body where I'm just like, God, that was just not the best of myself. And it's not even a perfectionistic. It's more like, could I be more kind? Could I be more patient? Could I ask better questions? Could I be more curious? That it's so normalized now. I just don't even think about it. But it's just like I was given all this goo in a meat sack. What's the best way to be that goo? Right?
Sure, sure.
I mean, that's how it feels to me. I mean, I don't usually call it goo, but I'm trying to make it so that it isn't just like it's not even I'm not seeking enlightenment. I don't care. That if I'm constantly seeking the highest, getting there is not the point. Just constantly moving towards it is the point.
The highest for
Um,
you, though, you mentioned kindness, patience, curiosity. I mean, are these how you're weighing yourself, whether you are being the best version of you, of the
I'm
goo in
I'm
you?
using general terms. I mean, if you want to be specific, it's like, can I tell the best joke? Can I be the best parent? Can people feel the most understood and seen? Those are actually my parameters.
How do you
But I
know? Do you evaluate yourself on
Oh,
those?
yeah.
Do you have
Oh,
interactions with a
100%.
person or group? And
Yeah.
if you go through like a little checklist after you're doing like an assessment of how was I with them?
Yeah.
Huh.
I do it to their face too. I mean, here's how I do parenting, right? My kid is 13 now. We had rough time in the beginning. I did not understand his limitations, and at the time I didn't understand mine. And over time I have drastically changed the way I parent, the way I interact with him, the way I see him and experience him. And I literally do like a check-in. Hey, I know that this part of your life was actually really challenging. How are you feeling about our relationship right now? Do you feel like you're getting everything out of me that you need to feel supported and able to access what you want in life? Now, most people will be yeah, exactly. I see your eyes. Most people will be like, "Are you fucking asking?" Sorry. Are you asking a
Oh, you can
13-year-old?
swear.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you asking a 13-year-old if they're getting everything that they can I 100% am. And I've asked very with that as when he was younger as well, because I was like, I don't want you to like wing this if you don't have to. There's a lot to win. I won't be able to answer all the questions and I won't even make it to, the rest of your life. Like you're live beyond me, God willing. And but I said, like, should you have a moment where you reflect on something that felt traumatic as a kid, I'm available to hear how that affected you. He is like 100% teenage boy response. He is not going to intellectualize that with me. He goes, "No, you're a great mom." And then the conversation is literally over. But I want him to hear that I am assessing that because I I chose this. I chose to be a parent. I chose to have one child. I chose to have it with this person, his dad, my husband. um,
Josh, yes.
Josh, yes. Um, and I want to be front and center every time. My friends would never. My kid is pretty good about being honest. I love that. If I try to do the same with my friends, but they do not love that question of like, "Hey, is our friendship the way you want it to be?"
Mm.
Most of my friends would like, "Please stop asking me weird questions
Oh,
like
I
that."
love that. Yeah,
Because
but I
don't
get
you
how
want to
that would
know?
make a lot of people super uncomfortable.
Oh my gosh, because then they also don't know what to say if it's not the way they want, right? Like
Well,
there's not a lot of like
that's when you're required to be honest, and a lot of people have a lot of
right.
issues with honesty.
Well, they don't want to hurt my feelings. They don't want our friendship to
Yeah.
change. Like all the good reasons and again, I don't put it to most people, but I do clarify often. Like some people have a tone of voice with me that they imagine my response. They look to me for a response. They pre-imagine it, and then they say, "I know what you're thinking," and then they say something that I'm absolutely not thinking. And I have done this many times with several friends where I basically reach back out to them. This is usually on a text or video or something. And I just say, I'm going to be super clear how I feel about you because I am not thinking that. And if I'm the voice in your head that's telling you this stuff, this like not so kind stuff, it, fire me in your head from that job.
Mm.
That's not what I'm doing. If you sense that I'm judgmental of you, I'm not going to lie. I have judgments of every single thing. I'm discerning about everything I'm thinking. I'll change my mind immediately if it's not working. That has nothing to do with you. That is only mine. So undo this muckiness that you think that I am representing in your life. And again, I can't control them doing it or not, but I really want to be clear that like I am not judging you. This is the pot calling the kettle black if you think so. And I have no stones and one big glass house. So like no, 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 not me. But it's hard because most people are like, okay. I mean, they just really don't want to engage and say, actually, that one time on Wednesday really felt shitty the way that your tone of voice changed. And I'm here for it. I'm not saying it'll be easy. I absolutely feel like, super self-conscious when people are like, you're not being a good friend. But God, if you're living a life with me and I'm not being a good friend and you're not telling me and I'm not asking, what are we doing here? It's feels like a waste of time. Back to my original thing of like, if I'm not amplifying you in some way and you don't feel like you're amplifying me in some way, what? You mean history is not enough to keep it going?
There's this amplify. This word keeps coming up for me the past few months. I'm feeling it inside as someone who I believe is starting to get better at amplifying others. And I love the feeling that you are amplifying my energy, my personality, the gifts that I bring to the world. So I'm just appreciating your use of words, and amplify is really speaking to me. One thing that I was thinking about too is honesty and situational honesty. You asking that question and you being candid with people all the time and asking for other people to be candid, that's a tall task for a lot of people. Obviously, it's very easy for you, and in fact, it's very easy to me because I've said this to many people and many other times. I will not lie to you unless someone's life is on the line. And despite Clark, my 12-year-old son, challenging me yesterday on this, he's like, "Well, what about a rat? What about an ant? Like, would you lie to save a rat? Would you lie to save an ant's life?" I'm like, dude, you know what I mean when I say I'm not going to lie unless it's to save a
No
life.
preteen logic.
uh, and I try to tell as many people as possible that, as of approximately 6 or 7 years ago, when I just made a commitment to myself and everyone else that I would not lie anymore, even about small things. I found that it's really hard for people to grasp that because they're expecting some reciprocity, and I'm not asking for it. I'm just telling them,
Mhm.
hopefully without a level of judgment that, well, you suck if you don't do the same, that I will not lie to you. And what if we had that level of honesty and that level of trust that everything that we heard was truthful, at least as
Mm,
far as the person telling it, like what kind of a world, what kind of relationships could we have? That's what I'm trying to find out by being
mm,
very public and making these declarations as much as I can. And this is
mhm.
why I enjoy you so much too, because I see you as someone who's just like, let's bring it out there. Let's bring all the stuff out there. Everything doesn't need to be disinfected. It's not like we need sunlight for everything, but let's just bring it all out there. And then we can see, oh, this is really messy. Do we need to
Yeah.
clean it up? Maybe not, but at least we know what's out there.
Yeah, I mean, it is a tall order. I do get pushback. It's not, like the whole concept of radical honesty. I'm not careless with my truth telling.
Right, right.
I'm absolutely gauging people's ability to receive. Um, unfortunately, this people are annoyed by. I don't need everybody to tell me the truth because I usually have a sensation that's ringing for me
Mhm.
when I can tell something's not right, and I don't want to be like, "You're lying to me," because that's also weird. I'm truth telling about them lying. No, there's a reason they're lying, or yeah, I don't even like saying lying. These are behaviors that people are doing protecting something, and it's weird to label it and call them that. But as I like to say with children's behavior, the behavior is seeking a need to be met. When people aren't telling you the truth, of something, then the need that they have is higher than the truth telling to me.
Sure.
Great.
I get that.
But I'll also say this, and maybe you and I, maybe this is the future of our kind of similar truth telling. And I do consider you one of my truth telling friends. And I don't love every truth you've told me. So like I'll be clear.
Fair.
It hasn't meant anything. Again, it shows me what I need to protect, and then it makes me ask why, right? So you telling me the truth has nothing to do with you. It has still to do with me because I'm receiving it in a certain way, right? You're just doing what you do. But I feel like I can't have this relationship with most people because there's so many other components at play. Do they feel rejected because I told them the truth? And you can't see my air quotes in this podcast, but like telling the truth is confusing for people because the for me, I'm doing it again to, I'll use the word amplify, or to give them something else to stand on, meaning like something to think about, something. And again, that sounds like I'm deeming myself somebody who's like, here's a thing to think about. No, I just mean like, I'll give you an example. I don't like being vague. A friend of mine came to me and she was having a tough time with another relationship, a friend of hers, and the way that parent was treating their kids and her kids together in the same space. Her kids had different rules than the friend's kids, and she was feeling unheard. I did not agree with her. She was coming to me for support and possibly a little collusion, like tell me I'm right, and I could not do it. And I felt very badly about that, and I tried very hard to be diplomatic. But the rules that she had for her kid felt arbitrary. And the other parent, I felt wasn't getting a clear communication from my friend about like, "Hey, this is a rule and here's why." I reflected back to her. That sounded hard, and I did not. I really wanted her to hear some clarity. I said, "Are these rules or these boundaries? They're different, so let's be clear. Do your kids understand that this is a rule? Or her kids understand that this is a rule? Why is it about?" Like, I just was kinda asking all these questions. I was
Sure.
absolutely not being like, "Oh my god, your friend sucks," which is kind of what I think she might have wanted.
Right.
So I did not lie, but I did not tell her what I really wanted to tell her, which is like, "You're controlling your children over this, and now you're blaming your friend," right? Because your friend is really doing whatever she's gonna do, and that's none of your business. She doesn't have to honor your boundaries, no offense, right? She have to follow your rules either. Um, in that moment, I realized she did want she did want someone to have her back and to just support her in, like, discovering that her boundaries are porous. But I absolutely was not. I was in the zone to tell her the truth. It's like, "Oh, yeah, this is weird, and your kids are gonna push back on that, and your parenting's gonna go down the hill as a teenager gets older." Like, I just wanted to say all that stuff, but I didn't because I just don't think she was listening for it, and she didn't ask me, "What am I missing?" Because that's what the answer would have been. "Oh, what you're missing is like, you're confusing rules and boundaries, and your friend and you have, don't have good communication skills, blah, blah, blah." But I find that that situation is common. When I tell people something that hurts their feelings, they really don't want their feelings hurt, and that sounds dumb. Of course, they don't want their feelings hurt, but I heard this a long time ago, and I don't know where I heard it from, but the something was like something along the lines of, if it's the real truth, eventually it doesn't hurt. And it's not to say that it doesn't hurt in the moment. And if people were going to have feelings, right? Those feelings pass. But if you've had that moment where someone has said something to you and you're hurt at first, but then later you're like, that's actually a really good point. It's that part, that second layer, that when someone is telling me the truth, or when I hope to tell somebody the truth, like, I am here for the best of you. If you believe otherwise, we're not good fit. We're just not a good This is not a good relationship if you think that I'm not trying to be for the best of you.
Mhm.
I sincerely hope you're for the best of me, and I will take your, no matter how bad it feels, response back to me in the same way. So back to what you said, I think I asked you, like, what do you think about coaching? A long time ago, you were like, It's really hard to make a living. I was so mad at you. I was like, you don't know me. I can do this. You did not say anything that was not true. You were not being mean. You were not, you were telling me in what you've seen in the world that coaching is hard to make a living at successfully, sustainably. My anger at the moment passed. You were right. It actually wasn't what I wanted to do in that city, in that the way that I pitched it to myself and have told you at the time. And again, I guess was like, yeah, I don't. There's nothing to go back to you and be like, you really hurt my feelings. So it passed.
Yeah.
You weren't trying to be a dick, and I don't know if everybody has that level of trust with everybody else.
Hmm.
That takes time to build, right? And we are prioritizing that type of relationship, so we don't build it even if we have the time.
So much to say about what you just said. Wow. I'm thinking of rules
Mhm.
and who has to or who gets to explain why the rules exist, the history behind them, the context
Mhm.
in which they're applied. I struggle. I get into problems with people because I think if you have a problem with a rule that I'm putting down or a guideline or a boundary, I have an expectation in general that someone will push back on me because that's the way that I like to. I love it when people challenge me and push back against me. That's just the default way that I want to interact with people is in real time. I want someone to have total confidence and total permission always to be like BS or why do you think that way? Or, okay, you just made a really bold statement there, bro. Please unpack that for me and explain why you believe that or how you apply that. But most people are expecting you, in addition to the what and the how, to bring the why along for the ride. And for me, the why is the hardest and the longest part of any conversation, and so I tend to not introduce it into conversations because there's so much context and backstory. And a lot of times in my mind, the meta conversation that's going on is ain't nobody got time for that. Like if they
Right.
really want to know, someone will ask me. But that tends to not work so great for a lot of other people. That I come across as someone who's not curious. And I often won't ask other people about their whys in terms of the rules that they've
Mm,
applied to themselves or to others.
mhm,
I might disagree with them, maybe significantly, but it's rare for me to be like, what, why did you do that? Why
mhm,
are you that kind of person?
mhm.
Why do you believe that? I don't know if you have similar experiences.
This is part of my neurotype. I'm always gonna ask the why if I don't agree or if it's pushing up against me too much. And I agree with you that the context giving to other people is time consuming and arduous if they're not interested. But I've also found that people tend to, this is such a generalization. I have people in my life who don't do this, of course. But people tend to kind of like not challenge a thought that they had. And so when they say things like, I can't do this, or this doesn't make sense, or I don't, I don't want to do this, I kind of want to know why. Because if it came from something that they can't source, then it's a weird belief that they've probably inherited or borrowed. Or back to belonging, they have agreed that they need to belong to the group that believes this thing. So it doesn't even matter that they don't believe it themselves. The group that they want to be in
The
does.
fitting in is more important than anything else. Uh huh.
100%. 100. And it sounds so weird that I would say that, but that is true
No, it's
for
not. I
like
mean, we're
political
social animals.
context.
We've
Yep.
evolved to be this way. And
Yep.
not fitting in the vast majority of human history means you are not part of the group anymore and therefore are at potentially immediate risk of death.
100%. Right. Great. See, we agree. That's like, if we could all just agree that that is what we're doing is not trying to die through our belonging, then we'd probably make a lot of progress. So I ask why, and I want to offer why if people are interested, because I want to make sure that we are thinking our own thoughts and at least open to a better version of those thoughts if there is one, which is why I don't mind disagreement. Like, if you have a better version of the thought than mine came from someplace before, and I don't test every thought. So if you're going to push back and say, like, actually blue is a much better color than green, and here's why. And that rings for me because I'll know that that's making sense. It'll resonate in some, physical and mental way. I'll be like, oh my God, great. Slough off green. Green was something I grabbed, right? Blue is actually why I feel. I feel blue. And I just, again, I'm not sure a lot of people love that. They don't necessarily want to be challenged. They like to sit in their comfort zone of, I picked this off the shelf and I'm never going to pick again. I just don't think that, again, that's not the highest expression of myself. That is not the best reflection of all the goo that's inside of me is to just take what I've been given and keep going and not challenge it at all. Also, my brain changes over time. So why wouldn't I keep listening for a new iteration of the thing? Right.
Hmm. It's
Because
really
maybe blue is,
confusing.
oh, sorry. Go on.
Well, it's really confusing for people to have you change your mind all the time because from one interaction to another, you might be a pretty different person, even with some of the people you interact with the most. Another issue I have is I evolve frequently and constantly and often in big ways. And I like to think it falls under the general banner of when you know better, you do better, at least the
Yes.
way that it feels to me. But a lot of people are like, whoa, 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 hold on. You said this last time we got together, and now it seems like you're saying something totally different. How do I square this? And then maybe the next time I see you, you won't even like care about that thing anymore. You'll be on to another topic or another belief or another passion or whatever it may happen to be. It's a tricky position for me to be in as someone who wants to change so often, wants to change my mind, is open to so much because people want to have an idea of who you are and what you stand for. And if that changes too much, then your relationship suffers in some ways.
Only if they have not agreed that change is inevitable. It
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense to me that people are like, but last year you had a different point of view. Yeah, I had different information this year. Shouldn't I change my mind if I have new information? That's my rule. New information allows me to relook at what I'm doing. If I have new information, I move on to the next thing. But if you're telling me that you, capital Y, are telling me that if I show up on Tuesday a certain way and you expect that Thursday, nothing between Tuesday and Thursday is going to change and affect me, you have effectively said, you know what? I'm not interested in change. No offense, but we don't care if you're not interested. It's happening whether you like it or not. You don't have to be fundamentally changing all of the things, but your body is changing without you. Like your cells are generating and dying. So the fact that you would just think like, oh, but you should have the same point of view that you had this time versus the next time in the future, you're pushing back on actual evolution. And if you want somebody who doesn't change, you don't want me. And you probably don't want a lot of people who do those big changing things, right? People who invent, people who create, people who change their minds about, what feels good and what doesn't feel good. Like, I can't imagine a person, it is not a compliment to me when someone says, oh, sounds like you haven't changed a bit. Oh my God, that's like maybe the worst insult, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I don't want to be who you met. I'm so excited that nobody recognizes me from high school. That I'm stoked about that, because if I look and act like I did in high school, shit, I am arrested development,
Mm,
right? I
mhm.
should look and feel differently than I was back then. And again, I'm looking at you watch a child grow and people who are like, "Oh, I wish they were just like they were when they were 5." What? You have an amazing 8-year-old in front of you. You had a 5-year-old. That 5-year-old changed into the 8-year-old. You want that and know you do. Because every parent who has a child that doesn't do those big changes or, grow, or the brain doesn't develop beyond a certain age, that also feels pretty crappy. And I know it because I've seen that happen. Right. So I know that you want to say that there are going to be these people who are like, every time I see you, something's different and it, makes me feel unsettled. That is not because of the person who's changing. It is because of the person who decides not to change. Right. It cannot possibly be my fault that you're upset that I'm changing.
Mm.
Because I'm gonna do it anyways, even if I don't wanna do it, I'm doing it.
Yeah, there's the scientific truth of it, and it even expands into like the universe is. Everything is constantly changing. It's so cliche, but it is scientifically true. And it often feels very spiritually true that the only thing constant is change.
Right.
But how do you actually live into that and believe that and use that as something that propels you forward instead of holds you back? That's where I get
Mm.
tripped up sometimes. You don't have to reflect on that.
I will just say that I that's reflection for me. If I see how I was and I see how I'm changing, I'm thinking about that whole process all the way through. So it isn't one day I've decided to wear all yellow and the next day it's all orange. I thought about the transfer between yellow and orange,
Mhm.
and I'm happy to share that with people. And the people who have stuck with me over time are people who know that I'm not leapfrogging to leapfrog. It's not change for change's sake. Because if it doesn't, again, if it's not a, a higher expression of myself, I'm not, like the people who are constantly seeking adventure and thrill, that little bit of a novelty dopamine mix, that's not for me either. Like I don't need constant change, but I mean, I don't need constant big change. But if you are, and I consider the reflection the art of it, right? God, why did I think that thought? That is fascinating because now I resonate better with this one. Hmm. Well, let's go back to when I first thought that thought. Blah, 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 right? And this is more of an intellectual exercise for me, but I do not want to leave people in the dust. If somebody came up to me and they were like, "Man, you're different from high school," I would have answers for why that's true, right? Not just time happening, but I'd be like, "Yeah, back in high school, I was really scared of shit and really worried what people thought, and really not developed yet into who I thought I wanted to be and how that made sense in the world." So what you're seeing is the evolution of that, the process of
Yeah. How often do you think of colors? Because you've already given two examples going from green to blue and yellow and orange.
that. I'm a visual
Are
person.
colors really important to you? Yeah.
I absolutely. I don't know what it is when you know how people are pitch perfect? Like they can you can say sing a C and they can sing a C. Like that's a skill people have. Yeah. Or they can hear perfectly like tone it's opposite tone deaf, right? I have that with color. How I noticed your blue, I didn't notice it was different because screens depict color differently. But like I look at colors and I could just be like, "Oh, yeah, I'm gonna go to a paint store and find that color." I will get very I don't even know how you mathematically, up the hue or down the hue, but I
Does your
love
brain know the 6-character hex code for something? Like,
no,
can you see, oh, that's CEF0 DE?
I
You don't
it's just
see a million
memorization, I don't
different.
have that, but I
Yeah.
have an
But
iteration
but
of
you
it.
kind of have like an internal version of that where you're just commenting like the blue of the walls in my current office, in my current home is very similar to the blue in my
Yeah,
previous office, in my
yeah,
previous home, and you notice that, which
yeah,
nobody else has ever noticed.
yeah.
That's really neat. Does that
Yeah,
does it
I'm
help
just a
you in
visual
some way?
person. Does it help me?
Yeah, like you've got a color
Um,
superpower, I think. And I'm trying to figure out what
hmm.
is the utility of that. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just something that you are and that's it.
So obviously it helps in art, right? My kid is colorblind. This is a fascinating thing. I am definitely not colorblind. I'm literally the opposite of colorblind. Every time someone says, "Can you see the color difference between these two things?" I can always see it. He thinks almost everything is gray or red. It helps because it's a visual depiction of nuance. So if there is a light blue versus a robin egg blue versus or maybe this is better, a cool blue versus a warm blue.
Mhm.
Yes, color theory can tell you why that is. There's more red in one and less red in the other. Great. The idea that the world, that's just a microcosm of the macrocosm of the world. Yeah, oh, that's helpful to know that the world is not just red and or blue, right? It has all these variations. And the variations are also quite extensive because it's how much black and how much white is in it. And then it's all the other things that mix with it, right? I'm not an art theory person. I did study design for a little while, but I was just reflecting on when we last saw Van Gogh, the his work was really light based, like based a reflection of light. all the ways that we can see color or see a way of thing. It could be music. Some people can do music the same way, but all the ways that you can see something vary means that you can allow varied ways of seeing things,
Hmm.
right? And I'm not saying colorblind people are myopic. I don't have that thesis down, but I believe that to be true because it comes again back to context. How much light is getting into your eye? How much light is available from the sun? What season is it? How much of this other thing bled into that other thing? It's infinite. It's a way to see infinity without being mathematically overwhelmed by it. Was a long answer to "Does color help me?" Yeah, it gives me it's like any type of anything that has so many things I can't count, right? Like, types of beetles or species of birds, for goodness sakes. Like, oh my gosh, this similar makeup. This thing flies, this thing has claws, this thing has a beak, and there's so many iterations of this thing. So how could I possibly strip my decision down to am I a Democrat or a Republican? Like,
Mm.
it's allowing for complexity allows for complexity.
I think I know what you mean when you say that. And I don't know. I'm having this question I often do with you is like you say profound things that just kind of stop me in my tracks. And I almost want to be like, time out, Becca. I need at least a minute to absorb what you just put down. Your complexity comment that you just made right there at the end is giving me one of those. So I guess because
Moment
I
of
don't have,
silence.
huh?
Should we have a moment of silence?
No, no. I want you to riff on your comment about complexity because there was something that felt right and true about it. And also there's something you understand it in a certain way. Like you made the comment as a statement. And I want to understand how you can do that or why you feel that way.
I mean, this is all gonna speak back to, like, probably what the philosophy that's starting to unfold as we talk, right? Like, my philosophy. If I have all the answers, right? This set let's just keep calling myself goo. This set of
I like a,
goo
I prefer fleshy bag of water that I've
fleshy
used,
bag of
but
water,
goo
good.
is fewer syllables and just more delightful. So yeah,
Yeah.
let's work with goo.
If I know all the answers, that feels scary to me. And if I know for a fact I don't know all the answers, somehow that's free because it means the world is unknowable all at once. Because we know it over time. We know some things before and we know them later than we didn't know them before, right? The earth is not flat. We got that. We figured that out. But it's kind of back to just like black and white thinking. If I think this is where I don't love, I think we were kind of maybe about to touch about convictions. Like, you don't have a conviction, then what do you have? I don't need a conviction, honestly. There is too much going on in the world to dwindle everything down to something that's just purely knowable. And I totally get math. Math is an absolute thing, quote unquote. Not to me. So there are people who are still studying it who know that there's more to know. And then there's people like me who are like, I'm not even going to try. I just accept the fact that math has a long line of knowability, but it's the complexity that keeps people staying with it, right? If we were done with math, if it was just ABC and then that was it, then we would be done with math. Then we would know it all. So it too is its own complexity. But I just it's kind of it lives alongside the change thing. I want it to be complex because I want things to change me. And I if I don't accept if I say I'm a simple person, I'm just a simple person. I like blank, blank, and blank. I mean, that's just it's almost personifying entropy in that way. But like I'll just kind of cease to exist after a while because there'll be no change. Well, actually entropy is expansion until the end. But it's atrophy. Maybe I mean atrophy, not entropy.
Mhm.
It, then what's the point of continuing on if I already know the end of it? If I never change after this, if I'm not this complex, if I don't think these really intense thoughts, okay, great. I guess that's it then, we're done. You don't need to try or strive for anything else, and I can't imagine that.
If you already have all the answers or feel like you have all the answers, then there's no point in asking questions.
Right,
And that to me is maybe the best part of life
right.
is
You're
asking
here
and
asking
receiving and
questions,
getting cool questions.
and I think that if you are that person, I mean, curiosity is a very adorable way of saying you like complexity, right? Not you, but like one. The reason you're curious is you know there's gonna be more answers to a thing at some point, right? You and again, even if you've done all the extensive research about something else, right? Like you have figured out how a mouse works, beginning, middle, and end. But the iteration of that, that's what brings the complexity to it. Because now you're like, okay, so if we have a device that can optically show like a little moving dot on the screen, how can we apply that to something else? Right. And you could do that with everything. So the whole idea is that not to finitely understand absolutely all the things. It's to know that great, I've got the idea of how this works. How does it work with this thing now? And then all the things around it goes on to infinity. I don't know. I feel just the idea that if I allow if I'm cool with that kind of complexity, I could hold all and this is personal now, but if I'm cool with that kind of complexity in the world, then I must be cool with it inside of myself. And I do feel like a lot of people, back to holding convictions, if I can't hold the paradox of myself, then it will start to feel clunky to be in the world.
Mm.
And the paradox is always there. We just ignore it because we really want to feel like we are absolute in a thing. We want to stand for something. We want to be labeled as something. We want to own the thing and be known as that. And the only thing that I can hold on to is I'm super complex and I have no idea how it's going to change over time. And that's very exciting because it means I have all the options ahead of me.
Mhm.
I'm not stuck. I'm not forever going to be stuck. I will always be able to think a different thought and put another thought together with it and be like, oh, that's new. That's different. Oh, good. Then it's not all futile. It's basically how hope works for me. It's not
Huh.
just the idea that things didn't get better. It's the idea that things will change. And I like knowing that.
Mhm. What else do you like knowing? What kinds of questions have you been asking yourself or others lately?
I like knowing what brings joy to me, like what I find joyful. It doesn't always mean I can follow it or pursue it or get it or feel. But there is also something about the constant intellectual pursuit of self that is tiring. And I rest through my joy.
You rest through your joy.
Yeah. Meaning, like, I talk about letters all the time, about writing letters. I know lots about it, just in, like the whole concept of like history of it and, all that stuff. But there is just something about writing dear and then a word, a name after that allows me to rest in that feeling of like, I love dear so and so, I'm about to tell you about myself. I'm about to give you a part of myself. I'm about to tell you a story. I'm about to reflect on what's happening. And that feels restful for me. I mean, it's very regulated. You want to be, nervous system and scientific about it. I love knowing what I love so that when I need it, I have it in my mind. As someone was standing in front of a red telephone booth, a British telephone booth. Lord knows why that sight, the sight of a red telephone booth, a British telephone booth. I don't know why it gives me joy, but it really does. And I just thought it's good to know that because sometimes I need a break from all that thinking and reflecting and changing and blah, 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 blah. And the joy part is the body feeling, right? Where I'm like, hey, you don't even have to think a thought. You love a red telephone booth. There it is. Smile all you want right now.
I wonder if it's doing the same thing for you that the United States Postal Service does, because I know that you like the snail mail letters that you enjoy, they're going through the United States Postal Service. And seeing a post office for you is probably a very different experience than most people. I don't want to imagine a world without post offices. or without your ability to send a snail mail letter to people. So I'm glad that you have that joy.
It's funny, I just came from New York last week, and we were in Chinatown, and it is not a remarkable post office, the one in Chinatown, but I walked down the street and it was, like, it bent at a certain place where, like, I had to stare straight at it, and I was like, "Oh my god, I have to take a picture of that," and I looked back at the picture, and I thought, "This is a cement, the typical cement, not very decorative, not decorative at all, post office," but it said Chinatown on it.
Hmm.
Like, that was the location of the post office, was Chinatown, and it said it on the, thing, and I just thought, "Why does that make me so happy to see? Why did I take a picture of that?" I take a picture of mailboxes, I take a picture of post offices. They're not even the kinds, I mean, some are, picturesque, but yes, I don't know why that brings me joy, but it's just like, "Oh, man." Maybe it's just the idea of a letter going from one person to another. It's probably a bunch of things, that's a whole other story, but yeah, it's good to have those moments of joy that are, like, real, that I could just be like,
Yeah.
"Oh my god, a image of a photo of a post office in Chinatown, New York. I'll
Maybe it's
take it."
because it helps us have belonging even when we're not together.
100%. Yes. Right here, you said the exact thing. I don't have to have anybody share that moment with me. In fact, nobody did. My relatives or whoever I was walking with were like, "Okay, you taking a picture of a post office?" And I was like, somebody works at a post office, somebody sends mail through a post office, somebody also sees a post office and gets, excited about it. I belong to that group of people, whether we've all acknowledged it or not. It doesn't matter. And I'm good with that, right? Like, I don't need us all to have a conference over it. So, yeah, it is a sense of belonging without needing a membership card to it. I just decided I'm part of a group that loves post offices. And I know there's a group because I can find them, right? They're everywhere. But yeah,
Uh, right on. I know you said earlier that you don't need to say I love you and you don't need anyone to say I love you, but I love you, friend.
I
You
love
are
you
just
too.
endlessly delightful. I enjoy
Mm.
us so much the way that we are together. Okay, we should probably figure out an end point, a way to land, at least for now. Was there something else you want to discuss ever so briefly before I prompt you to tell people where they can connect with you?
I'm gonna say this because this is something that I thought about before, and maybe it could be a private moment, but maybe it's not, and maybe it's okay to share it even if it is a private moment. Your interest in how you I want to find a different word, but we're going to use the word friendship because that's the word everybody knows. Your interest in how you friend people is remarkable. And I'm not trying to compliment you. Like, I just want you to hear that aside from the compliment of, like, you're a good friend. Cool. That's not what I'm saying. This sort of seeking that you do with people, and again, we're going to use friendship as a very general term, is remarkable because it is uncommon. I know lots of people like friends and lots of people like relationships and community. We have all these words for it. But I find it inspiring, feels distant, so that's not the word, but it feels, is it conspiring? Can I say that? There's a way that I'm allowed to show up when you are in that moment of, like, how do we friend? How do we interact? How do we seek together? That uh is unparalleled. That rare. But also that makes me leave the conversation and think about it again. And I don't know who else has that experience, like a fan club of you, but I feel like if you don't know that about yourself from somebody, meaning you know it about yourself, but maybe not everybody is telling you. I just want to be in the group that's telling you that, like, this is next level, like, peopling. And I so appreciate it. I just really fucking appreciate it. Like, I could write a book about it. So I just thank you for your time, but also your intent. It's, yeah, those two things together is like the juice.
Oof. Feeling very, very full energetically after that one. You don't have to write a book about it. Maybe you can just start with a letter. Mail me a letter and then see if it turns
Same.
into a book. Oh, Becca. Oh my
Mm.
goodness. All right. What about if people want a little bit more of the way that you think, the good that you do in the world, online or offline? Where would someone connect with you?
My 2 spaces are Becca Campbell, Substack.substack.com, so that's where I'm at just generally on Substack. And then my business, my travel design business is Matching Sweaters Travel.substack.com. Both of those are up and live right now. I'm sure over time I'll do the website thing, but those are the places that you can find me thinking my thoughts.
Groovy. Thank you, friend.
Thank you. This was awesome.
Are you feeling ready to belong in more places and ways after listening to that conversation? Maybe you're primed to get real with that friend or family member you've been holding back with. I know I'm ready for more conversations with mega rad humans like Becca, and they're coming your way. You can find links to stuff we spoke about, takeaways, and a transcript in the show notes at joelzaslofsky.com/SMJ004. Did you appreciate this episode or perhaps the show in general? Consider leaving a review wherever you listen to podcasts because I gotta say, it helps me stay motivated and it gets the show in front of more folks. I'll be back with you again to sling stories, facilitate connections, and whip up experiments to help you make friends with people, possibilities, and ideas.